How you doing, man?
I'm
Bit of a
okay.
delays in there.
Just getting through another week. I've noticed something here that the weeks tend to go by very quickly and the weekends are now dragging rather slowly. Because during the week, I at least have some structure. During the weekend,
Right.
I have nothing to do. So one of the things I
I,
did
some
yesterday, this being Saturday, is that I went and stood in line at Costco for an hour because I had the time.
just for the hell of it.
Well, I had to get some stuff, but normally, if I saw a line that long, I just turn around and go home. But I had the
Right.
I had the bandwidth, so I stayed.
I don't think we, as a people, really have the bandwidth right now for COVID-19. I'm a little concerned about Corona fatigue. So on the big Twitter machine, we punched in a question, and the poll went. We're worried about Corona fatigue. How much music and technology related discussion should we include in next week's episode tied to COVID 19? Only 5.3% said all Rona all the time. 9.3% said half the show, about 15 minutes. And then 85.3% said, you know what, just give me the latest, the first 5 minutes, and then let's move on.
Okay, I guess. But it's so hard to escape. I know that we should be talking about other things, but this is the thing that people are obsessed with. It is affecting the lives of
And
everybody on the planet right now. So how do you
you
not
want
talk about
evidence of that. You want evidence of that. One of the most popular tweets that we put up on the geeksandbeats.com is this one here. And I don't even know if it's real, but it reads, I have a confession to make. I would not know John Bon Jovi if he walked into this building. I cannot name a single
what?
song he has ever recorded. It's not that I don't like him or his music. I have just never really been exposed to it. This superstar is washing dishes at one of his JBJ Soul Kitchen restaurants that feeds the homeless. They're still cooking. Now that's what it means to be a rock star.
Yeah, okay. I saw this picture, and I know that he is a very community-oriented guy. But I want to go back to the assertion by the writer of this tweet saying that they've never heard of Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi's been one of the biggest artists in the world since the mid 1980s. Everybody has heard
No,
"Living on a Prayer," or
this is the
I just don't
same
believe
as the
that
Billie Eilish eyelash thing. Not knowing who was it, Tom Petty or somebody. You didn't know who he was, and everybody got all upset. By the way,
no,
what are you
no. That's
drinking?
well. How old is the person? No, no, no. Stop, stop, stop. How old is the person that posted that tweet?
Couldn't tell you. It's one of those meme
Seriously.
things that's been making the
Well, see that.
rounds. I really don't know.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Listen, I understand that not everybody is as plugged in as you and I are. I really, really do get that. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of cultural ignorance that is not acceptable. If this person is anywhere over the age of 30 and doesn't know who Bon Jovi is, there's just no excuse for that. There can't be
Well, they're
because
probably
you need
not
to
over
be.
the age of 30.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. So if the person is, um, okay, I'm going to bash you. If you aren't, all right, it's from another generation. I get that, but again, you still need a certain amount of cultural literacy to be able to navigate through this world, and I would be very cautious about admitting something that you. It's kind of like people who say, um, "I don't have a television, so because I don't really care what's going on." Well, that's kind of irresponsible in this ever-connected world, where you need to at least understand that there is this medium called television out there, and that it is affecting the course of civilization in one way or another. You should know what's happening. To almost crow uh, about your ignorance about somebody so big is not wise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did I
I
just
had
make
it.
sense? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I just put out a tweet recently. Some guy had come up with some sort of suggestion that maybe in the United States they ought to have a minimum IQ, a reserve of geniuses, as it were. And whenever there's a big, COVID-19 like event, that we can sort of like have this on-call collection of the brilliant minds of the world, and they could just jump into the process. My thought was, instead of having a reserve of geniuses to solve the world's problems when things get really bad, why don't we just put educated experts in place in the first place?
Well, that's a good point. I think we should actually maybe back up a little bit and talk about the state of schools. If people aren't being educated
Oh,
on what it takes to get through this life, there's a problem right there. You look at the way the Americans are handling the COVID-19 situation, and science is taking a backdoor to just about everything that's coming out of the White House, and by what some of the deniers are saying. The kind of people who are, I don't believe this to be true because it doesn't feel right. Meanwhile, you've got scientists standing up in front of you who have empirical evidence of any number of things, and you're saying that no, they're an elite. No, they're one of those smarty pants know-it-alls who've been to university, who think they know better than all of us. Well, I don't feel that they're correct. There's too much of that going on. So maybe we do need a council of elders who are going to grab people by the back of the head and say, "You idiot, shut up and listen to some facts. Learn this because it is true." The other thing that's
Council
driving
of
me absolutely
Elders.
nuts,
That's brilliant. It's like you pull it right out of Star Trek or something. This is like some sort of Vulcan thing, isn't it?
I honestly, there's so much that's making me mad about what's going on in the news these days that, my wife and I were talking about these pastors who have these mega churches who are insisting that even in an era of physical distancing, that, they're okay. They're somehow exempt from the coronavirus. One woman said, doesn't matter. I'm going to church because I'm protected by the blood of Jesus. Okay. Tell you what, sweetie, you may believe that, but I'll tell you what, why don't you go up to the 14th floor, jump out the window, and have faith in Jesus to catch you before you hit the ground? I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Call the great creator in the sky, put us on this earth with conscious thought and the ability to reason, and then just kind of hands off. All right, I'm hands on face right off the bat. Yeah, I'm in my okay. So I'm answering. Okay, I was sneezing. I'm in my home. I have washed my hands 1,000 times. I am prepared to touch my own face because there is no infection in this house. Okay, so thank you, Marty, for your concern. But I am going to
Wow,
rub
that
my
was
eyes.
really
I'm going to stick
touchy.
my fingers like there. I am because I've been thinking very carefully. I've been taking things very seriously. Although I'm kind of going all over the place here because I've got so much pent up
And nobody wants to hear it. That's
stuff.
the crazy thing about it.
No,
You know what I do want
yes,
to
they
talk
do.
about?
Yes, they do. I think they
Because
do.
you got us hooked up. You got us hooked on Tiger King. I'm blaming you for this. Okay, this is all your fault. And so, wifey and I. Sorry, I did it again. My wife and
Don't
I.
do it.
Apparently, she doesn't like it when
Yes.
we watched it, and one thing we particularly watched was his country music career. We pulled up the Joe Exotic TV page he's got, and he's got 2.8 million views on his signature song, "I Saw a Tiger," and I thought, how could we not talk about? We would go on this. Okay.
Please stop.
There we
Now,
go.
can we? All right, I have done. You want the truth behind all this? That's not him singing. He basically
that was
did.
what I was
What
getting
the
at.
name of the? No, it's not him singing. Remember
Look,
the Rebecca, whatever her
we
name was,
looked it
who did
up.
Friday?
No,
Yes.
no. The real singers behind this, because if you listen to Joe Exotic, you know that this guy is not the singer. There's no way. And the funny thing was I didn't even question it. It was wifey who. It was my wife who pointed out.
You did it
that
again.
There's no
You did
way.
it again. Stop it.
I know. I'm never gonna not. I have a feeling. Point being is that it clearly couldn't have been him. And so we looked into it, and it turns out there's a Canadian connection to this.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell you what I know. Then you can fill in the blanks with the Canadian connection because I never heard that. Remember Rebecca Black and Friday?
Yes.
Okay. So what happened there was her parents or whatever it was paid for a custom song to be made for their daughter. And it became this big viral thing. This is the same thing Joe Exotic kind of did with a couple of guys named Vince Johnson and Danny Clinton. They prepare, they will write and record customized songs, right? So what he
20 of
did,
them, as a
I don't
matter
think
of
he's
fact.
ever met him. Right. So he convinced them to make some of these personalized tracks. And apparently he said, please do them for free because you'll get all kinds of promotion from my exotic TV from my Joe Exotic TV show. And what he ended up doing is lip syncing to what they sent him or singing softly to what they sent him. They had no idea that they thought that they were sending these songs down to his roadside zoo to be played and represented as is. They had no idea, and this is a quote, that he was going to Milli Vanilli the songs, which is basically what he did. So what you see and what you hear is a lie. It's Vince Johnson and vocalist Danny Clinton, who, by the way, died in October. So he never
really got to take advantage of this.
See all this. Yes.
Okay, so I dug a little bit more into the Clinton Johnson band. Have you dug up these guys, because they are a local Vancouver-based band, and they're sort of funk kind of expression, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. But I punched this into the internet, and it turned out from October 11th of 2010, it was that a local band's music was to be featured in a film, and so Columbian.com did a big story on these guys. I guess these are the two guys here. Danny Clinton is on the left, Vince Johnson is on the right. And the name of the film, it's an R-rated film, and they lent their musical expertise to...
Oh, tell me.
Nude nuns with big guns.
Guns. I just knew we were.
Freak Show Entertainment is proud to present the most unholy film you'll see this year.
Forgive me, Lord, for I'm about to sin.
I'm not the Lord. He only works through me.
What is said here is between us and God.
I'm not here to confess any sins. I'm here to commit them.
In a church on the outskirts of hell, an innocent nun was drugged, beaten,
It keeps going.
for dead.
I'm sorry. This is a shoot 'em up. I thought when we said big
Except
guns,
her
I
faith.
I was dead and God came to me. He told me to kill
Well, wait for it.
all who sin.
Although we don't have to worry about the kids watching this. This is safe. Even though we're all working from home.
Now she's going to show them that hell hath no fury, like a nude nun. Big gun.
We have a vigilante in the calles, going around and killing all the bad guys. We are the bad guys.
Nude nuns with big guns.
You know, you're not exactly the forgiving type.
This sister is
this
one
is something out of a Quentin Tarantino parody.
It feels like kind of like a Roadhouse.
Show Entertainment. The
Oh.
guys who brought you
Bru-
Run, Bitch, Run.
Oh dear. All right, I'm sorry I haven't heard this story up until now because this is absolutely brilliant. Nude nuns with big guns. Okay.
So they 6 months ago, as of the writing of October of 2010, apparently the producers wanted to use 2 songs, and then they found out that they wanted to use clips from 10 of the songs. So these guys had made it big about a decade ago.
I'd never heard of them, but okay. Oh God.
So that's
sorry,
my
I just can't get
contribution.
over this nude nuts and big gun. Yeah,
Well,
thanks.
I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, now where? Please do put it in the show notes. Now, please also include a link to where we can actually see this film, because this is grindhouse crap that I just have to watch.
I have no idea whether or not actually. You know what? Let's pull it up. Let's see what the internet has to say. IMDb.com.
Nude nuns with big
And-
guns. Well, if it's on IMDb,
Big guns. Oh, there it is.
oh yeah, 2010.
Yep, 3.9 out of 10.
Oh, it ranks
More than 5,000 ratings. So it's a thing, or at least it was a thing. And then, unfortunately, if I scroll down any further, it stops being safe for work from home. So maybe we better not scroll.
Oh
any further.
dear.
So I was looking into, who this guy is, who this Joe Exotic is. And of course, you come across this photo, right? That everybody sees.
Yeah.
But did you see this one?
With the big mullet. Which one? Well, that's a standard
Pull it up on your screen.
Photoshop. That's his standard mugshot.
No,
I mean, I've seen that. I've seen
Donald
that
Trump.
picture all over the place. Wait. Oh, it is. Where did you get that? So, wait, somebody
It's the
photoshopped
internet.
Donald Trump's face over Joe Exotic's face? Yeah, I see. Okay, now I see it. It's the rings around the eyes that give it away.
Was it a time delay
God.
joke? Did you eventually got it?
We do
You know
have
it's
a
not
little
a
bit of
joke.
latency on this week's broadcast.
We do. How's this? Netflix
Why?
stock's up more than 14% so far this year.
Well,
What do you make
I
of
can
that?
understand why people are streaming music is down, but streaming video is up. So, what was that?
keep going.
You're doing your no, it's your stupid dirty martini, isn't it? You know what I have? I have an Armagnac tonight. I'm being very, very classy. I have an Armagnac that I bought at the LCBO before they closed today.
For forever.
I also, by the way, are you still using Tito's?
I am still using Tito's. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, stick with it. I tried something called Red Devil. No, don't recommend it.
Yeah, I'm one of these guys who wants to find something I like, because otherwise you got to start redoing the ingredients and the recipe for your martini. That's no good. You don't want any of that kind of nonsense. So you stick with what you know as far as I'm concerned.
No, listen, I did convince my wife to buy a bottle of spirits for herself today. This is very unusual because she's almost exclusively a wine girl. So she has purchased a bottle.
She likes to
of
get
Kettle One.
white girl wasted.
White girl wasted. So she has bought herself a bottle of. She's in the next room, so I have to be very quiet. Bought a bottle of Kettle One cucumber and mint flavored vodka. So I would imagine at some point this week she's going to come from her office upstairs and decide that she needs a snort before dinner. That's what we'll have.
Mint?
And cucumber.
Sounds like something you get at the spa.
I think that's what attracts her. It sounds like a
really?
healthy drink, something that you might have after a schwitz or a massage. I know.
Sex robots.
we're locked.
There.
What?
I'm going through the list of. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going through all of the questions here and the comments. We're just trying to get put together a group of questions on the live stream here for anyone who's got a question for you. So it's the Ask Alan Anything segment. So I'm just sort of going through all of this. Looking
Why is it always me? Why can we ask you? Wait. Stop. Why is it always me being asked the questions? Why am I the one being interrogated? What about you?
Because I don't know anything.
Okay, well, let's just go with that then. Do you have any questions? Let the interrogation begin.
No, not as of yet. We're just sort of setting it up. See, this is the new world
There we
in
go.
which everyone has to operate, right? Like now everyone's doing Zoom-based kind of conferences in the world of Corona Apocalypse 2020. So you got a new way of doing stuff. So if you're doing like a webinar and you want to make sure that people ask you questions, make sure that you tell them in the middle of it so that they can start writing their questions down, and therefore you got a whole queue of them ready to go when it comes time. But no, we don't have any questions for you right now. All we have is a bunch of points. Marty Steele said, first guy to say sex robots gets 10 points, so I get 10 points. And Automatics is suggesting that we play Run, Bitch, Run, the Carol Baskin story.
Yeah. Now, you have watched all 7 episodes, I take it?
Okay, so I have now watched all 7 episodes. It was a slow motion car crash, if there ever was one, and I feel dumber for putting the energy into it.
I understand that assessment. However, what you have to understand is that the world has gone to hell in such a horrible way this last month that we need something even lower than the current existence of humanity to watch and feel superior to. So, this is why Joe Exotic has filled this gap at exactly the right time. Now, I should also tell you that I heard today being Sunday, April the 5th, that there is another episode that could end up being broadcast sometime in the next couple of weeks. Because there's a big follow-up. I mean, where's Carol Baskin today? Well, because there were so many loose ends. I mean, Joe is in jail, and how are things going with Joe in jail? A sheriff has reopened an investigation to Carol Baskin's husband who disappeared. Where's that meat grinder? What happened to that other guy with the other roadside place in Florida? The guy from Las Vegas that came with the hot wife who tried to take over everything. So there's a lot of where are they now stuff that needs to be followed up on.
Well, I suspect that there's going to be plenty of opportunity for us to take advantage of this, because this whole COVID-19 thing isn't going away anytime soon, regardless as to what Donald Trump would tell you. And so my expectation is that we're going to be under self-quarantine at least through to the end of August, and it won't be at least at the very earliest until September that we find ourselves on the other side of this with the confidence of going out and getting back together with people. I went to Statista.com. I've got a Statista account of which I paid a fortune for all the proprietary research, and look what it showed us. Year-over-year change in average monthly in-home data usage by device in the U.S. from January to March. So the gray bars that you're looking at are the year-over-year comparisons right here. So, for example, your phone usage in that first 3 months of the year of this year compared to the first 3 months of last year, up 34%. Connected TVs are up by 27%, streaming boxes by 24%, tablets by only 12%, which is interesting to me. Most of us, I guess, are just using our phones. But the big jump is in the smart speaker side. We're turning to our Alexa more frequently than we previously had.
Isn't that interesting? Up by 7%. Well, I can see that, because one of the things that I saw, some internal documents, was that tuning to radio in Canada is up substantially as people tune in not only to hear the news and to hear what the latest from news talk stations, but also from classic rock stations and adult hits radio stations, because people want a distraction from everything that they're hearing on the news stations. Yeah, so the weird thing here is that radio listening in Canada is up substantially, but advertising has cratered because nobody wants to advertise right now, because they've got nothing to offer, and people can't leave their homes to avail themselves of any services or activities. So it's a weird situation, and we're not only seeing this with radio, but all other media. If you look, for example, of watching MSNBC, for example, you'll notice that the ads that you're being served up are of the low rent variety, or there's a lot of public service announcements, or there's a lot of promos for other shows. That's because advertisers do not want to advertise right now, because, well, what's the point? Who's going to come and buy their stuff? Right. So it's a strange dichotomy right now.
Oh, okay. First of all, I don't believe it for a second. I don't think that people are turning to radio. So I'd be really interested in knowing.
I've seen
more
the
about how
documents.
those
I've
numbers
seen
were
the
established.
No.
I know you've seen the documents. We're seeing a tremendous demand go up for streaming, particularly. Where was it? Here, let's pull this back up. Gaming, VPN, web traffic, streaming.
Video streaming, not
12%.
music.
That's true. No, fair enough. You're absolutely right on that front. But I would think that most people are actually consuming produced content like podcasts, for example. And so you and I looked into this, and we saw that there was a 15% decline in the number of minutes listened to in the podcasting world for podcasts that had nothing to do with COVID-19. But COVID-19 podcast listening was through the roof.
Yeah, last time I checked, there were about 1,400 COVID-19 related podcasts. And people are just hungry for information. They want to know when this is all going to be over. They want to know if they're sick. They want to know what they can do and what they can't do. So podcasts are becoming a really important source of information. The other thing, too, is that Sirius XM Satellite Radio actually has a channel devoted to nothing but COVID-19 coverage. So that just shows you the thirst for information that people have about what's going on these days.
We got a question for Ask Ellen Anything. You ready for it?
Go.
Zappo Hisbane says, I suspect it's been asked or answered before, but how did you meet up and start this thing? Huh?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll explain that. Our wives work together. Our wives organized a dinner. We started talking about things our wives were talking. No, we started talking about things that because our wives started talking amongst each other. We had nothing to say in that particular conversation, so we started to talk to each other. And somewhere, someone suggested that we come up with a podcast, so we did.
Oh, that was your idea, my friend.
Yeah, it was my idea, wasn't it? I did present it to you.
It was.
And I can't remember why I presented it to you. You were the only person I've ever presented it to.
I had a podcast prior to this that was not under my own name. It was under a pseudonym because it was not authorized by CTV News. And my co-host was a lazy son of a bitch who didn't contribute in any way, shape, or form. And then that combined
like a guy like me.
Well, the big difference is that when you'll admit what?
Oh, you're breaking up.
No, am I? It's the technology. It's not working for you now suddenly? All right.
That's fine.
Uh, okay.
You know
So
what? I'm going to turn off my camera.
that's your version of this. Okay, you're having some troubles there, apparently. All right, so he's.
No, I'm not
he's
having. I'm turning it off. Just
Oh,
yeah, just because you're breaking up. So I'm trying to preserve some bandwidth for you.
but that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
How what works?
If I was
What?
breaking up, it would be breaking up because it was on the download, but you turning off your camera turns off an upload. Wow, that was a boomer moment if there ever was one.
Okay, hang on here. Okay, we have to do this. I'm going to tell you because I have a fantastic. I have a vent. There we go. Here we go. Checking. I'm going to just prove that I'm all right, and that it's not my connection. The other thing that could be happening.
Oh,
is,
are you doing
Sunday night
the
at
speed
7:30.
test? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, but here's the other issue too. We can't even find an optimal server for my speed test. The issue right now is that it's Sunday night, 7:30. Everybody's settling in to watch some TV, probably some Netflix, or probably YouTube, or something that requires a whackload of bandwidth. And as a result, it's just starving us of what we need. Because are you? Oh no! Wait a second here. I'm going to tell you that my download speed is even now, hang on, 232. My upload speed, if we can figure it out.
You do this penis measuring test every
My
time.
upload speeds. I know, because it makes me feel better. And I need to feel better. My upload speed is about 27. 28. Oh, see, I did okay. So I'm guessing it's you.
Yeah, it could very well be me. I've got all of this gear dialed in to stream, and it's all hardwired. It's all good quality stuff. It's actually running off that brand new MacBook Pro that I bought that runs circles around everything else I've got. By the way, here's a suggestion when it comes to future live streams. This one from Marty Steele saying, when it's all over and we're allowed back out, can we do a live show at a public venue? I vote for the Horseshoe Tavern and Sunday.
What do you think? I'd love to be able to do that. Not necessarily in the back room because that's kind of big and weird, but in the front room, absolutely. With the checkerboard floors, I'm sold. I was thinking.
Do you know anyone who could make that possible?
I thought Marty said he could make it possible. He seems to have.
I don't think Marty is suggesting that he's dialed in on that front. I don't know, Marty. Are you?
Well, if he is, that's good. I was thinking about what it's going to be like when this finally does pass and we get back to business. Can you imagine the advertising, the campaigns? We're back. We beat it. We're moving forward. We survived. All that kind of stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. I really, really am.
When do you think that's going to happen? What's your prediction?
I think we're going to start to see something open up in the middle of June. I don't think it'll be quite as late as what you say. And I think that we run the risk of opening up everything, let's say in August and September, when it's very possible that there may be a rebound occurrence of the virus in the traditional flu season starting in October and November. So we got to be careful about
very much my concern is that we're going to have that second wave of it kick in and everyone goes out too soon. Like, we were supposed to talk to a guest today and we canceled it because they were like, yeah, we'll talk about our big concert that's coming up in July, and we know that you're going to have to ask us about COVID, but we'd appreciate it if you didn't dwell on it. I'm like, there's no way anybody's going to a concert in July.
I took a poll of some listeners a little while ago, and the feeling was that it will be 6 months to a year before we trust each other and trust the environment enough before we go out to a concert and mingle with people the way we used to. 6 months to a year after the passing of COVID-19.
Yeah, I'm just going through your Twitter account right now looking for it. But yeah, it's one of these things where I think most of us are going to be very reluctant to get into anything big. Like none of my speaking engagements are booked until September, and
Oh.
even then, I'm not particularly convinced that's
Yeah,
going to
mine
happen.
are all in September. No, I've got I had a whole bunch for May, and every single one of them has been bumped to September. And I got one in Poland. I've got another one in LA. I don't really hold out much hope. One of the things that's going to be very, very true is that nobody is going to qualify for their status miles on Air Canada. So the lines for segments the lines for zones 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to be very, very long because no one will have acquired enough miles to be in zone 1 or 2. I had a hard time last year
Well,
just getting to.
first
No,
world
this is
problems.
really
I am
important.
stunned.
It is
You're,
a first.
you're such a air
No,
miles
you want to be in
whore.
zone 1. Yes, I am. And the point is that it's been harder and harder and harder to acquire miles. You not only have to have a certain number of miles, but you have to spend a certain amount of money acquiring those miles, and you have to have both those things before you move on in terms of status. And I want to be on the plane first because I need overhead bin storage for my carry-on. And if you are in zone 5, good luck finding that. Got to be in zone 1 or 2. And I want the upgrade so that when I do my long trans-Pacific flights, I get a chance to at least move into premium economy from the back of the bus. So it's not going to be. It's the only flight I took was with you when we went to Las Vegas. By the way,
Yes.
we kind of dodged a bullet going to CES this year, don't you think?
Well, yes, because it was January, and that was when things really started to ramp up in China, particularly. And then we came home and found that
Right.
China had decided overnight to build 2 hospitals from scratch.
Do you remember walking through the Las Vegas Do you remember Do you remember walking through the Las Vegas? Jesus. Do you remember walking through the Las Vegas Convention Center with those packs and packs and packs of Chinese delegates?
Not really, no, but okay.
No, there were a couple of times when we were walking around on the outside. We were surrounded on all 4 sides by big groups of Chinese delegates. Didn't think anything about it at the time, so what? I mean, whatever. But looking back on it right now, we're lucky we escaped with nothing. Usually there's something called the CES cold, the CES flu, because you have so many people
Yes.
from around the world in a very close quarters, shaking hands, doing everything else, and everybody goes home with a cold. You and I actually left CES completely healthy, and we did not acquire any sort of virus as a result. But think about how close we came to how close CES in Las Vegas with 300,000 people, and so many of them from future hotspots that we didn't get sick. We're lucky.
Bullet dodged, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, I agree. Totally agree.
All right, so all right, let's get back to. We really went down a rabbit hole that we're probably not going to go back to. By the way, according to Marty Steele, he says he can make the horseshoe happen.
Okay, Marty, consider it done. You have
Putting
an
it on you.
assignment.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we don't have any other questions for you. By the way, your version of the how you and I started this podcast story absolutely sucks.
I didn't want to drag it out. I thought I was being very pithy about it.
My version of the story
Do you want to
is
elaborate?
unfortunately quite long. Sure. And so my version of the story is quite long, and the upshot is that when I was in radio school, one of the lessons we had been taught, and I had actually been in radio for 2 years before I went into radio school. I got into radio at 17, working overnights, and then went to Humber. And we had been taught to find someone whose read you liked, mimic it, and make it your own. It's one of the best bits of advice anybody who gets into the business can receive. And My wife, who I met in the business as well, she had that exact same advice given to her early in her career, and so she chose Mary Ellen Benninger as the woman whose read she modeled hers after, and I chose you.
Oh, I didn't know you chose me. I did not know
Well,
that. Oh,
you and
okay.
you and I have very different reads, but what I took away from your read was that when you're reading something, it doesn't sound like you're reading it. It sounds like you're talking. And I thought that was the most important lesson to take away from that. So if you ever saw me on television, I was reading a teleprompter. It sounded like I was just talking. And so I did that with you, and my wife did that with your wife. And then sure enough, your wife ends up sitting next to her at 680 News one day, introduces herself. Fast forward, you guys are over for dinner. And out of nowhere, fast forward to a different dinner, we're up on the Danforth, and you out of nowhere say that we should do a podcast together after I had lamented that I had pulled the plug on a previous podcast I had done, and I had really enjoyed that. That is the variation on my story of us.
It's close enough. Again, I was being very pithy.
Were you on your phone the entire time?
Okay, here's what, yes. And I'll tell you why. Because I have a new app called Ready. Readi. And it is a sleep coach.
I am so
smart. And what I do is I wear a little wristband. I wear a wristband to bed, and it tells me exactly how well I'm sleeping. And it gives me a score. So last night, for example, I had a bunch of bad dreams. I lost an hour and 10 minutes to tossing and turning. And my sleep efficiency for last night was 83%. Now, if I go to another thing here, I am right now at 96% efficiency when it comes to my circadian rhythms and my ability to converse at high levels. So today's peak is 2 points above ahead, 2 points, and I can't talk, 2 points above yesterday. However, I will be crashing
it's a
shortly.
Goddamn mood ring. That's what it is.
It is. You know what it is, and I've got yeah, that's exactly what it is. So I was just waiting. I was just seeing, okay, how are things going with my my efficiency rating as we're doing the podcast? I'm at 96%. However, that is the peak for the day, and if I slide it ahead just a little bit, no, you got me until at 96% until about 8:30. So you got another 46 minutes before I crash. Oh, we're not going to.
Well, then we should probably do a Geeks and Beats news update. What do you think?
Okay, let's do that.
All right. Time now for Geeks and Beats updates. I want to say thank you to everyone on Patreon who helps make the show possible. And we have a new member of the World's Worst Intern program, Stephen Hulan. On March 25th, pledged $1 per episode, so he becomes a member of the World's Worst Intern program. And you know what makes it the World's Worst Intern program?
You pay us, you get nothing in return, and except maybe the opportunity to put this on a resume, and we will vouch for you should you need to use us as a reference.
I want to say thank you as well to James Holmes, who boosted his $1 per episode up to $2.50 on the Patreon. So thank you very much for making that happen. And what he also can do is set a lifetime limit. So as a result, we'll ding his credit card $2.50 every episode, unless he puts a limit. And if it's, $10, then it's, that many episodes. So there's an alternative. If you're not a big fan of Patreon, you want to set up another account, you can go to geeksandbeats.com, click the support the show link, and support us via PayPal as well. By the way, we did get some PayPal cash coming in the door, courtesy of the Patreon. So that combined with the fact that we're supposed to be doing sponsored episodes, we will have covered CES 2020 so long as they pay the invoices.
Okay. That's nice to know because not a lot of money's coming in for a lot of people. I mean, I do have a regular paycheck. My wife has a regular paycheck, but I realize that we're very, very lucky at the moment.
Dude,
and your wife
knows exactly what you're talking about.
You're just... Yeah, you're just flapping in the wind.
Well, yes and no. Fortunately, when I left CTV News and BNN in April of 2018, I hit the ground running with that documentary series, Future Rhythmic, and I had anticipated that we would see a recession. We were 10 years into a bull market for the New York Stock Exchange, for the S&P 500 specifically, and I figured that we were due for more than just a correction. We were due for a recession, a proper one. I did not anticipate that it would be COVID specific. I did not think that it would be an external shock. I thought it would be a case of people panicking out when they realize how over-leveraged the world is with debt because of what happened with the stock market crash of 2008. We never really de-levered from all the money we threw at the economies of the world at the time. And so I'm like, we're due. And so because I figured we were due, I was stockpiling cash. And so most of my business model has evaporated. The speaker circuit has dried up. That was about 20% of my business. But the new business revenue model dried up too, because it involved me actually reaching out to people and saying, hey, can we meet? Can we talk? Can I find out what's going on in your world and learn about their world? And as I learned about their world, maybe there was a way that I could help them. And of course, I can't do that anymore because nobody's going to meet face to face for a coffee or anything like that. So the business development side, completely in the dumper at this moment. But I do have that existing base of clients, and they're all interested in pivoting away from in-person type stuff to content that can be consumed like podcasts. So I've been doing a lot of that.
Good. So upshot of all this is that you're not going to be moving in with me.
I couldn't anyway. You've got like this menagerie of animals at your place.
This is true. If I
You're not the Tiger King, you're the Pooch King. Did you just freeze up? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here now. It's getting getting slower.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So,
noticing,
so maybe it's kind of like your rhythm there, your mood bracelet's telling you that it's time to wrap this up. Maybe we should just wrap it up. And,
it
say
is
thank you to everyone.
actually.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody, and we appreciate you being here. And stay safe. Go wash your hands.
And send me the Pro Tools side of your conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Headline-
for joining us as well. Oh, shoot. We got to do the headlines. You're absolutely right. Sorry. I'll be with you in a moment.
Yeah. And then I'll transfer this to you.
Okay. Yeah. I almost wrapped
Almost done, dear. We just have to do a little thing here. Almost done. What are we watching?
What do we call it? Tiger King. Okay, I sent them to your phone, if that helps.
Oh, phone. Okay. So is it email or text?
Text.
Oh, text. Okay. Here it is. Tiger King, the Lion of country music.
We'll tell you who's the real star. Lyin? I know I typed it as lion as in the animal, but I think I'm going to change it to lion as in lying.
Oh. Damn synonyms.
Sorry.
Or is that a homonym? Tiger King, the lion of country music. And you'll see why. He's Milli Vanilli.
We'll tell you who's the real star behind the 2.3 million downloads for the Netflix reality star.
Plus, what is COVID-19 doing doing to our damn internet? Well, look at the stats.
Get off Alan's lawn. All right.
Yeah, go away. See ya.
Does it work for you? Are we done?
Yeah, it does.
I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us as well.
Yes. I hope you enjoyed.
All right. Yeah, this delay really blows.
Yeah. This Zoom?
I don't.
What are we using?
No, this is livestream.com.
Oh, yeah.
It might be
all right.
better off with Zoom. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, we'll see what we
Anyway,
You know what? We're getting better
All right,
at
man.
this sort of thing. We'll see. See you. Bye.
take care. See ya.
Catch all new episodes of Geeks and Beats Wednesdays on iTunes. And watch for Geeks and Beats magazine on a newsstand near you. To be part of next week's show, call area code 323-319-NERD. Follow the stories on Twitter or Facebook and get your dose of Geeks and Beats anytime at geeksandbeats.com. The Geeks and Beats podcast would like to thank the National Science Foundation.